Hi guys! Today I'm thinking about the cheapest cities in the world. When learning about the cheapest countries in the world, it becomes clear that the headline cost of living figure for the country is based on an average of the costs within the cities where the data is available. So, in some smaller countries, or countries with low populations, or in some cases where sufficient data is unavailable, the figures can be skewed. For example, in a country with only 10 cities, where data is available, which are all very cheap, can make it seem inexpensive in relation to another country, but it doesn't quite give us the full picture. Some countries may have a very large number of cities, and have some cities which are relatively very cheap, but also some which are a lot more expensive, which is sometimes the case in countries which are in the process of development. So if we produced a list of cities which have the cheapest cost of living, we will see the full picture in the cities, in the country, and also in a geographical area. The following table shows the cheapest cities in the world, which gives a clear explanation of the cost of living in the cheapest areas of the world. Also shown later on in the video is a table showing the cheapest city in every country in the world. This gives some additional context and demonstrates how low the cost really is in the cities which have the lowest cost compared to the rest of the world. Some of the figures for the monthly cost of living in these cities are unbelievable, so they may surprise you. So just on the spreadsheet here, so the first column is the rank of the city, the second column is the city, the third column is the country, and then we have cost of living per month for a single person in dollars, pounds and euros, the food cost per month in dollars, pounds and euros, the rent and utilities costs in the city in dollars, pounds and euros, and then the population of the city and the quality of life score out of 100. So the first city on the list is Vellore in India, which is the cheapest city in India, and also the cheapest city in the world, with a cost of living of $236 per month, which is £177 per month, which is €203 per month. So as we go down the table and the cost of living increases, we come to Dera Ghazi Khan in Pakistan, which has a cost of living of $257 in dollar, and the food cost here is the cheapest in the world with 104 in dollar, 78 in pound, and €89 per month. We then have the cheapest city in Bangladesh, which is Rajshahi with 281 in dollar, and then the cheapest city in Egypt, which is Damanhur with 282 in dollar. We then come to Janakpur, which is the cheapest city in Nepal, at 284 in dollar, which is 213 in pound. We then have the cheapest rent and utilities in the world, with Hatuda in Nepal, with $56 per month, which is £42 per month, which is €48 per month for rent and utilities. We then have Vasai in India, which has the highest quality of life score on this list, with 65 out of 100. We then have Zawiya in Libya, with a cost of living of $316 per month, which is 237 in pound and 272 in euro. We then come to Clef in Algeria, with a cost of living of 333 in dollar. We then have the cheapest city in Turkey, which is Osmaniye, with 344 in dollar. We then have the cheapest city in the Philippines, Lucena, with $362, and the cheapest city in Iran, which is Shahikord, with $364. We then have Jalalabad in Afghanistan, which is the cheapest city in Afghanistan, with $368 in dollar. Jalalabad also has a quality of life score of 17 out of 100. And Aswan in Egypt has the highest rent and utilities cost on this list, with $188 per month, which is £141 or 162 in euro. We then have the cheapest city in Vietnam, which is Hue, with $380 per month, which is 285 in pound and 327 in euro. And we have Posadas, the cheapest city in Argentina, $385, and Calabar in Nigeria also has a quality of life score of only 17 out of 100. And we have the cheapest city in Syria, which is Homs, at $385, and the cheapest city in Tunisia, which is Bizerte, at $388 in dollar. We then have the cheapest city in Rwanda, which is Gisenyi, at $395. And we come to Grodno, which is the cheapest city in Belarus, with $399 in dollar. And Grodno has the most expensive food on this list, with $222 in dollar, 167 in pound, and 191 in euro. And the last city on the list being $400 per month, which is £300 per month, and 344 in euro, is Alexandria in Egypt. So the outcome is that Vellore in India is the cheapest city in the world, with a cost of living per month of $236, which is £177 or 203 euro per month. Dera Ghazi Khan in Pakistan has the cheapest food in the world, with a cost of just $104, which is £78 or 89 euro. Hatuda in Nepal has the cheapest rent and utilities in the world, with $56 or £42 or 48 euro per month. Out of the 202 cities, Calabar in Nigeria has the lowest quality of life score, with just 17 out of 100, and is also tied with Jalalabad in Afghanistan, which also has 17 out of 100. Of course, we would think that the low cost of living and low quality of life go hand in hand, but this is not necessarily the case, as the city with the highest quality of life score is Vasai in India, which has a quality of life score of 65, which is higher than Phuket, or Pattaya in Thailand. Phuket has 56 and Pattaya has 59, and the same as Manila, which has a quality of life score of 65, which is the capital of the Philippines. Grodno in Belarus has the most expensive food in the top 202 cities, with $202 coincidentally, or £167 or 191 euro, Aswan in Egypt has the most expensive rent and utilities, with $188 per month, which is £141 or €162. Out of the 202 cities on the list, they are all less than $400 per month, with Alexandria in Egypt being the highest cost of living at exactly $400 per month. There are 120 cities less than $350, 50 less than $250, and just one under $250, which is the city of Vellore at number 1. Out of the top 20 cities, 19 of them are in India. Out of the top 50, with the exception of 6 cities in Egypt, the remainder are in the same geographical landmass, all being within India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Nepal. The top of the table demonstrates how the figures are skewed by the cost of living figure for a country being an average, as whilst technically Nepal is the cheapest country on average, with an average cost of living of $362 per month. But when a table of the cheapest cities is produced, the cheapest city in Nepal, namely Janakpur, does not appear on the list until a rank of 24. So the conclusion here is, if you are looking for a region to travel in or relocate to, and are in some doubt of where to go, get yourself over to the Indian subcontinent. Or if you can't make it to there, Egypt is a close second. So the second spreadsheet shows the cheapest places in the rest of the world. So we're starting from $400 and the cost of living increases as we go down the table. So we have Jingdezhen in China, which is the cheapest city in China, with 428 in dollar. And we have Caguazu in Paraguay at $457. We then have Tacna in Peru at $461. And we have Berberati in the Central African Republic, which has a quality of life score of 4, which is extremely low. And we have Bol in Chad, where the quality of life score has been ranked as 0. And then we have Yambio in South Sudan that has a score of 8. And then we have Riobamba in Ecuador at $510, which is the cheapest city in Ecuador. And the cheapest city in Colombia is Florencia with $514, which is $386 in pound and $442 in euro. And then we have Moniwa in Myanmar, which is the cheapest city in Myanmar, with $528. And Kota Bharu in Malaysia with $551. And Coro in Venezuela, $571. Udon Thani in Thailand, the cheapest city in Thailand, with $581 in dollar, $436 in pound, and $500 in euro. And then we have Velez, the cheapest city in North Macedonia, with $593. And Zacatecas in Mexico with $664. And then we have Muyinja in Burundi, which has a quality of life score of only 7. And then we have Mixco in Guatemala, the cheapest city in Guatemala, with $720 per month. And the cheapest city in Chile is Arica with $727. And Santa Ana, the cheapest city in El Salvador, with $734. And we have Kindu in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with a quality of life score of only 9 out of 100. And then we have the cheapest city in Uruguay, which is Melo, which is $789. And in Japan, the cheapest city is Kurume with $820 in dollar. And in Costa Rica, the cheapest city is Punta Arenas with $825. And the cheapest city in Panama is David with $922 in dollar. And in Greece, the cheapest city is Lamia with $954 in dollar. And in Portugal, the cheapest city is Bragança with $957. And the cheapest city in Montenegro, Kaninje, with $990, which is $743 in pound and $851 in euro. And the cheapest city in Spain is Jerez de la Frontera, which is $1,008 in dollar. And in Laos, the cheapest city is Thakek, with $1,038 in dollar. And then we have the cheapest city in Italy, Trapani, $1,077, and in Canada, Saguenay, with $1,104 in dollar. We then have the city with the highest quality of life score on this list, with 92 out of 100, which is Lidingö in Sweden. And then we have Brest in France, which is the cheapest city in France, with $1,227 in dollar. And the cheapest city in Australia is Armidale, with $1,288 in dollar. And in Cyprus, the cheapest city is Aradipu, with $1,296 in dollar. And in Germany, the cheapest city is Duisburg, with $1,467. And the cheapest city in the United Kingdom is Doncaster, with $1,558 in dollar, which is $1,169 in pound and $1,340 in euro. And the cheapest city in the United States of America is Belleville, with $1,914 in dollar, which equates to $1,436 in pound. And then we have the cheapest city in Ireland, Tralee, with $2,039 in dollar, $1,529 in pound, and $1,754 in euro. And then we have the most expensive food on this list, which is in Hamilton in Bermuda, with $907, which is $680 in pound and $780 in euro. And the most expensive city on this list is the cheapest city in Monaco, which is Monte Carlo, where the cost of living is $4,626 in dollar, $3,470 in pound, and $3,978 in euro. Monte Carlo also has the most expensive rent and utilities on this list, with $3,472 in dollar, $2,604 in pound, and $2,986 in euro. So out of the cities which are the cheapest in the rest of the countries in the world, there is a huge variation in cost, with Rivne in Ukraine having the cheapest cost of living at $405 per month. And at the other end of the table, Monte Carlo in Monaco being $4,626 per month, which is 10 times more. The food bill at the low end, again, is the lowest in Rivne in Ukraine, with $130 per month. At the high end is Hamilton in Bermuda, with $907. Rent and utilities at the low end. Gampha in Sri Lanka with $90, and at the high end, Monte Carlo again, with $3,472 per month. Out of the cities on the table, the lowest quality of life score is 0. This is for Bol in Chad, There is also Berberati in the Central African Republic with 4, Yambio in South Sudan with 8, Muyinja in Burundi with 7, and Kindu in the Democratic Republic of Congo with 9. Ironically, these scores are much lower than on the table of the 202 cheapest cities in the world, so cost of living is not always tied to quality of life. The city with the highest quality of life score on the list is Lidingö in Sweden with 92 out of 100, with a cost of living of $1,214 per month. So the conclusion here is that there is a huge range of cost of living around the world, which is all relative to market forces within local areas and is linked to how much people can earn. So the message is, if you feel stuck in a place with a low cost of living, but you are not earning enough to cover your costs, or you live in a place with a high cost of living and want to move somewhere with a lower cost of living, never give up, as there is a cost of living out there somewhere to suit everyone's needs. Okay guys, that was the cheapest cities in the world and the cheapest cities in the rest of the countries of the world. I'll see you on the next one.